What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I do want to go over a pretty interesting topic, and I've honestly been thinking about this for a bit recently, plus many players have been mentioning it. But do you guys think the events in this game should pay out more money in each of them? Now, we do know many of the events are obviously going to be like a minute to like maybe like 5 to even 15 minutes. You know, like the longest event in the game that's going to be around 14 minutes or so. But the big question is should the events get like a pay increase in each of them? To a certain extent, though, I have been noticing more people talking about making more money in the events, or at least having some type of like pay increase in them. Now, we do know each event is going to give you money based on how long they are. Many of the events, and I guess you could say many of the longer events, can give you around like $50,000, and maybe around 65 to 70 if that. But even running that though, guys, you have to have the clean driving modifier active. On top of that, you also have to have a buck set as well. And of course, you can most likely farm money a bit easier that way. I do also want to mention I'm not going to bring in like the grand races into this because that is slightly separate. I'm mainly talking about like the single player aspect of Motorfest. We do know not everybody wants to play PvP and most likely grind money in that game mode, so they are probably going to go into like playlists or like, different events, or even pick like their favorite class and most likely jump into their favorite races and then do those back and forth to, get maxed out part sets or like even grinding out those specific events. That way they are making money and doing the events they do enjoy actually doing. I would know because in the beginning of this game I was also doing around like the 5 to 6 longest events in this game, and that way I was having a great time, doing a random setup on those races. That way I make money in that aspect. Now, I do have to admit, though, after grinding out many events in this game and most likely only making a lot of money by doing the main events in the game, I would have to agree with basically everybody to where, yeah, they probably should increase the pay just a bit. Now, if you are wondering what could be the best way to do that, or like by how much should they do it, I would honestly say by all of these smaller events in the game that pay out like around 12 to like 18,000 to maybe increase each one by maybe 5 to $8,000. And then on top of the main increase on the events, you'll also get like a pay increase on the clean driving modifier. So on many of the events, instead of it giving you like 3, maybe that can be increased to like 5. And then for the longer events, instead of like, for example, guys, the Liberty Territory, honestly in ways does make me kind of frustrated. It is obviously going to be the longest event in the game, and on that you're most likely going to go, well, yeah, I should get like a lot of money from it. Well, if we are comparing this event to the one that was in the Crew 2 that was 30 minutes, back then you can obviously have 1,000 icon points on bucks, and what's also insane about that though is I'm not even kidding here, I was making over $600,000 every time I did that long event. Now, I do know that race was obviously like 32 minutes or so, or like, depending on the hypercar you did end up choosing, it could be longer, or even less if you did like all kinds of cuts. But if we do compare the New York race to the Liberty Territory, you can definitely tell like the payouts do not make any sense whatsoever. For example, in the Liberty Territory, around 13 minutes of racing, you're only going to make around $100,000 in that event, which if we do compare that to the New York race is almost less than half of it, and that's also going to be running a buck set and also the driver perks as well. So I would guess right now that many players are like, well, yeah, Block, we definitely need a pay increase because none of these numbers actually add up whatsoever. And honestly, I would agree. I would say getting like a maybe 10 to 15,000 on some events would be so much better, like including the driving modifier. I would say, guys, having like a $4,500 thing is good, but why not make that like 7,000 or even 8? And then on top of that, like the Liberty Territory honestly should give out like 140,000 per run. That would most likely bring a lot more players into the longer event. That way they could grind out more money over time in it. For example, a good way to look at this is, let's say you are grinding out an event that's going to be around 5 minutes long. In that event, you're going to make around, let's say, 40,000. If you did 3 runs, that's going to equal 15 minutes. So you are going to make, let's say, around 120k from it. That might actually equal around the exact same time of doing the Liberty Territory. So the big question is, why would I end up doing that long event when I can basically go grind out like smaller races and most likely make more money in a shorter amount of time? I would say that's probably going to be one of the biggest issues with the payouts, is some of them honestly do not make any sense whatsoever. Like, I do understand some of the events are set to that said money you get, but like, can we get more money from the clean driving modifier and also maybe increase it a bit? That way it might actually make a lot more players excited to grind the events out. Once again though, I'm not talking about the grand races because I do know you can make money from those probably easier, and in some ways you can probably make more from doing the grand races than the events themselves, which I would say is honestly hilarious. But I would like to know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think like some type of increase should happen to the payouts? I would almost say everybody is most likely going to want it, like yesterday.